welcome back to my channel. In today's Wacky Wednesday video, the prompt was bad women. Badass women. Okay, so I got together some recommendations of books that have like some of the best women characters, or maybe more like demented women characters that I've ever met. And I have one nonfiction recommendation. She's not demented, but she is a badass. She knows how to get stuff done. Just like all the characters that I'm going to be recommending to you, but this one is nonfiction, so it's a true story. This book is emotionally draining, and this character is Emily Doe. Although, is it really a character if it's nonfiction? No. So it's Chanel Miller or Emily Doe. This is Know My Name, a memoir by Chanel Miller. This follows Chanel at this college party where she gets attacked. And it's a lot about what happens afterward and during the trial, how a lot of victims are victim shamed for what they chose to wear, or how many drinks they had, or how many drinks they had on an empty stomach, or things like that. And it was just such a powerful story that I could not recommend this anymore than I am. Like, I really just want to shove this book down your throat. No, I don't. But this was a very eye-opening, very empowering book. It was emotionally draining, but it's perfect. And Chanel Miller, I think what makes her the most badass character, the best person, the most badass person, is that she doesn't think that she deserves to, like, be a badass. She just thinks that she's just living her life, and that it took her a long time to grow and to heal from what happened to her at this party. That she doesn't think that she is the hero in her own story, but she is. And it was just very, very impactful for me. So there was no way that I was going to make like this bad A list of characters or people and not put Chanel Miller at the top of this list. Like, this is my favorite nonfiction book, but it is very hard to read. Very emotionally draining. And that's why it hits so close to my heart, and that's why it's just like so perfect. The rest of these are fictional characters, and I think there are 13. So 3 of them have a character with the same name. So we're going to start there and then kind of work our way into this big pile over here. So I've learned that characters with the name of Rachel are pretty badass. They're very badass. So there's Rachel from The Party by Lisa Hall. This follows Rachel as she wakes up in a strange room after a party that she went to with her husband the night before. And she slowly kind of wakes up and figures out where she is, only her body is in a lot of pain. She has no idea what happened to her until little bits and pieces come back at her. This is very much more a mystery than a thriller, although the ending does get kind of, has that, like, goes from here slow and steady to all the way up here. It's like boom, 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 boom. Thank you, ma'am. But Rachel is a very badass character because she wakes up with no memory, and then she slowly has to investigate what happened to her. And she is asking a lot of different people because it was like a neighborhood party, but her husband was there, and she thinks that someone is lying to her, and she has to figure out which one or who all is lying to her and why. So she's very much like an independent investigator of her own life, and she very much takes her life in her own hands to figure out what the heck is going on. And it was perfect. Then we have Rachel from The Night Swim by Megan Golding. She is a true crime podcaster, and she kind of travels to whatever city the court case is in. So she goes to this small town for this court case about this high school football player who's like the star of everything, and he is accused of raping this girl at this party. I sense a theme in the last 3 badass characters. But she is following that case and doing a true crime podcast on it. While she's in that small town, though, she gets these creepy notes left on her car, and it is very much feeling like she is getting stalked. And in a way, they kind of interweave together, and it was really, really good. This next badass character was not attacked at a party. That is not part of this plot. This is Rachel Klein from The Chain by Adrienne McKinney. So Rachel Klein drops her daughter off at the bus stop, and her daughter is supposed to go to school. But Kylie, her daughter, gets kidnapped at that bus stop after mom drops her off. And this is more of a commentary on like how far a mom in particular would go to get her kids back and to make sure that her child is safe. And this was just so perfect because, like, it really does make you question. I don't have children other than my students, but it really makes you question, like, how far would you go to protect your child? Like, the child that you brought into this world, and now they are kidnapped, and they could be getting tortured. You have no idea what's happening to them. All you know is that the person that kidnapped your child calls you and says, I need a ransom. Okay, done. Got you your money. But you also need to kidnap the next person on the chain in order to get your daughter back. Like, what would you do in that situation? As I was talking about Rachel from The Chain, I also thought about Audra from Here and Gone by Halen Beck. So this follows Audra, who is leaving her abusive husband. So she drove from Pennsylvania and she's trying to go to California. She makes it to a very small town in Arizona where this cop stops her and arrests her for something that was a very dumb reason to pull her over. Well, I guess that she had too much stuff in her car, so her car was kind of leaning down too much. I don't know if they'll really pull you over for that, but apparently they did in this book. And anyways, Audra gets arrested and she gets booked, and all night in the jail cell, Audra's just like, where are my kids? What'd you do with my kids? Where are my kids? Where are my kids? And like, she is going crazy because she doesn't know what happened to her 2 children. But the cop is telling Audra that she's a liar and that the only thing in her car were 2 empty car seats. And Audra's going crazy because she's like, no, my kids were in the car. What did you do with my kids? But the cop will not stop saying that she's a liar and that Audra must have done something with her kids from Pennsylvania to Arizona, or that she left them with her abusive husband. But like, why would she do that? So this was such a good story all around, because you have to figure out, do you believe the cop or do you believe the mom? And all I can say is that the mom, she is one of the strongest, smartest characters I've ever read about. And Audra is so amazing in this book. You can take all these books that I'm talking about as recommendations, because they are, like, these are some of the best female characters that I've ever read. And most of them, not all of them, most of these are thrillers, but I tend to read thrillers that have really amazing female characters who just want to save the day. So they have like a heroic complex. I wonder what that says about me. Anyways, let's go here to the first Taylor Adams book that I have. Darby is my best friend. Like, I know she's fictional and she's not real. I mean, she's fictional. But if I could pick a best friend, it would be Darby. This is No Exit by Taylor Adams. This was the first Taylor Adams book that I've read. But you follow Darby Thorne, who is going to Utah to visit her mom who's dying. And it's around like New Year's or Christmas, I think. Anyways, it's snowing and she's in Colorado. The snow's really bad, so she drives into this like rest area where there are a few cars. But when she gets out of her car, she looks into the truck next to her, or like the SUV next to her, where she sees a child in a cage, and it's like padlocked and craziness. So obviously something is going on there. But this goes from 0 to 60 in like 5 seconds flat, because as soon as she sees that, Darby has to make decisions. She has to be like, well, I'm going to save this helpless child, or none of my business. But like, Darby is a badass, so of course she's going to try to save that child, but it's like an isolated location because you can't go anywhere. It's snowing. The roads are shut down. It's a real bad snowstorm. And so how is she going to get this kid out of this car and to safety? And it all takes place in one night, and it was just perfect. Darby is definitely my best friend. Like, yes. If I could pick a perfect best friend, because Darby would do anything for me if I was her best friend. So, if you want, like, yeah. This next one, I think, is the only one that is not an actual thriller. This one's a literary fiction. It's very forbidden. And it's probably sickening that I like this book. But this is All the Ugly and Wonderful Things by Brenda Greenwood. So in this book, I'm counting Wavy. So Wavy are these two drug dealers' daughter. And you meet her when she's 10 or 12, something like that. But she grows into this very badass woman who can take on the world. She doesn't need help from anyone except for her forbidden love interest, who is, like, there's an age gap. And considering that you meet Wavy when she's 12, he was like 20, which, like, 8 years isn't that much, but when you're 12 to 20, that's bad. That's so disturbing on so many levels. But I loved this beautiful literary fiction. It's just about, like, it's really this coming of age novel for Wavy, who has to grow up on her own and take care of her baby brother because her parents are in no condition to be parents. And it was perfect. Okay, the next one is All the Dangerous Things by Stacey Willingham. In this book you follow Isabel Drake, whose son was kidnapped from his crib 1 year ago today. And Isabel Drake has put everything into finding her son. So it is very sad because Isabel's life hasn't been the same since her son went missing. She doesn't sleep. She doesn't sleep anymore. She's on the brink of losing her job. Her marriage is in chaos because how do you get over something like that? But Isabel hasn't lost hope in finding her son Mason. So she has gone off the rails to figure out what happened to her son, because she doesn't believe that he was murdered. She believes that someone took him out of his crib to raise him as their own. And this was just amazing. Amazing thriller. And I love Isabel. She is a great mother who would do anything to protect or save her kids. And that just speaks volumes of her. We are going to change gears a little bit. Let's see if I have any more mother. You know what? I'll do one more because I have one more mother who's just, like, amazing. Who's just perfect. So there's The Push by Ashley Audrain. To be quite honest with you, Blith is the mom in this thriller. This one's more of like a literary thriller. And Blith is off the rails. She seems very crazy. I wonder if she has postpartum depression because she thinks that her baby is evil, but no one else sees it. So you wonder if Blith is just crazy or if she's the bad A who can see the truth. Either way, she's a bad A, but is she a crazy bad A, or is she, does she see the truth when no one else can? We have The Last Housewife by Ashley Winstead, which she follows Shay Evans, who is investigating what happened to her friend from college. her friend from college was found hung, and it is thought that her friend, Rachel, is her friend's name Rachel? I don't remember her friend's name, but it is thought that she killed herself. But Shay doesn't believe that, so she kind of openly starts investigating what really happened, because it kind of mirrors something that happened in college. So you get dual timelines of what happened in college to her other friend, and you kind of enter into this cult, and she goes undercover into this cult where misogyny and rape happens on page. But she also has teamed up with like this true crime podcaster, and together they're investigating what actually happened to her best friend. And this went places. This is a wild ride. This is very disturbing. I do not recommend it lightly. So please check all the trigger warnings, because it is the most violent and the most disturbing book that I've ever read. But Shay is amazing. She is that best friend that I wouldn't mind having her as best friend either, because if something happened to me, I mean, granted, she would not act until after the fact, after I was already dead. It would be good to have her on my team, because she would figure out what really happened to me, no matter what other people said. But if I had Darby on my team from No Exit, then she would prevent anything bad from happening to me. So I think together they make a great team, but they would make a great team. But Shay is just like, she puts herself into all these dangerous situations because she cared about her friends so much. And are they dumb situations sometimes? Like, could she have stopped herself from getting into those situations? Some would argue yes, that she didn't have to get into those situations. But I still, love her. Then What Lies in the Woods by Kate Alice Marshall. This follows three best friends. Hey, these both follow three best friends. But Naomi is our main protagonist, and she is definitely capable of things. She was attacked when she was 11 years old in the woods, and her and her two best friends decided to lie about what happened. And now it's 20 years later, 10 years later, I'm not sure. I think it's 20 years later. But the man that they said attacked her in the woods has now died in prison. And now they're back in this small town to kind of figure out what actually happened in the woods and why they lied and who was responsible. And this was just a wild ride. This altogether was just such a wild ride. But I love Naomi because she is a liar, and she blatantly tells you that she's a liar. So then you wonder if you can trust anything she says. And I just really enjoyed this thrill ride. Then we have my favorite Riley Sager book. This is The Last Time I Lied by Riley Sager. And in this one, you follow Emma, who back in the day, she went to the summer camp, because this is a really good summer thriller. But she went back to she went to this camp when she was younger, and she got put in this cabin with these three other girls, mostly Isabel. I don't think it's Vivian. She's the main, girl from the past. Decides, we're going to play Truth or Dare. We're going to do 2 Truths and a Lie. And then Vivian and the other 2 girls go missing at that camp. And this is a very slow burn mystery thriller, more mystery heavy than thriller. But Emma decides to go back to this camp because they're having like a grand reopening, but it's also the final year, 10 years after the girls went missing. And Emma decides, okay, I'll be a camp counselor. And then like history repeats itself, and Emma is just going crazy, or it seems like she's going crazy, but you have to decide if she's crazy or if there's something really sinister at play here. Alright, we have 2 left. I'm going to try and hurry through them because my battery is almost dead. But I think we got this. So, there's another Taylor Adams. There's The Last Word by Taylor Adams. To be quite fair, Darby Kane is a much more badass character, and she's a much better character. But in The Last Word, you follow Emma. And Emma writes a bad book review. And she it's a very isolated thriller. She starts having all these dark atmospheric things happening. So this was a very dark atmospheric book, and I loved the atmosphere. The character, she's kind of slow to catch on, but once she does catch on, it amps up and she gets, this book goes places. But I would not say that Emma from The Last Word is very smart as a character, but she is very resourceful because it's like an isolated thriller. It's a survivalist thriller, I think. She is house sitting and she leaves that bad book review, and then dark things start happening in the house that she's house sitting at, and then the author is very unhinged and he might be out for revenge. And that's all I'm gonna say. And then my last, like, badass female characters, like the female character that I recommend so much, is actually a serial killer. Her name is Scarlett Clark from They Never Learn by Lane Fargo. This takes place on a college campus. You follow Scarlett Clark, who is a professor who murders men that deserve it because she's out for revenge. And that's all that I'm going to say, but who would not think that a female serial killer, first off, who wouldn't want to read from a female serial killer's perspective? And Scarlett is such a badass. Things happen to her, but she doesn't let that get her down. She just keeps going, and she is so, she's like what nightmares are made of, and I'm okay with that. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you're new around here. We have some really fun things happening. I will see you guys later.